Sahana bhavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We have been studying about how to gain wisdom. The first aspect of how to gain wisdom is learning that we don't know. That's our very first thing. Because what happens is, no matter what happens in our life, we get the feeling that we know. And so, even now, we can say, oh, I've been doing Vedanta for so many years. Now I know. No. The moment we say that, the shutters come down, then growth is stopped. I can say, I am now 75 years old. Now I know. No, we don't know. As long as we're not realized, we don't know. That's an important part for us to understand. Okay, then how do we get to know? Okay, we accept we don't know, then how do we get to know? We get to know by not only listening to the words of the wise masters, but by thinking about those words. Listening is a good thing. There's nothing bad in listening, obviously. If we didn't listen, how would we get new information? How would we get new knowledge? So, of course, we need to listen. We need to read. We need to listen. We need to keep our eyes and ears open. But that's not the end of the knowledge journey. The information is not giving us wisdom. So, we need to reflect upon it. And reflect upon it means conscious, disciplined, systematic reflection. Meaning that you have set for yourself a time every day which is dedicated to that. Nothing else. The world stops when you do this. So, listening, you are all attending classes, and most of you I can see are extremely regular with it. So, great. That's one aspect of discipline done. Second aspect of discipline is the daily morning study. And I've kept that time. It's the first thing I do every morning. First, don't take literally, please. Please brush your teeth, wash your face, do all that. But as soon as I get up, that's what I do. I do not read the newspaper. I do not do stupid things and waste my life. I do this. And the great thing is, if you get up early, nobody else has gotten up. So you are at absolute peace to do it yourself. It's that time which you put to develop that in you which makes you a human being. Anybody who's not doing that is not putting in the time and effort to be a human being. It's a human being, nothing extraordinary about it. That is fundamental to being a human being. The capacity to think, to reason, to judge, to decide. Should we not put in our effort? Should we not dedicate some time to be able to do that? Now, instead of doing that, we do many other things under the name of religiosity or even under the name of education. And that's what the great Buddha has warned us about. It says, do not believe in what you have heard. Spiritual education, Sarthak, you're impossible, Sarthak. How is leaving your wife, child, kingdom justified? That's not our topic today, Sarthak. Just because we mention Buddha, we don't have to deal with every aspect of his life. Try to keep to the flow of thought. If you don't keep to the flow of thought, you start running here and there and everywhere, no aspect will become clear.
Ma'am, it was the starting of the class, so that's why I asked. I wouldn't have asked this in between.
Okay, very good. So we are making great, but the class has started. So if you want to ask the question, type it in before the class starts. Because now the
Okay.
summary has started, right?
Okay. Okay.
Don't worry, Sarthak. For your sake, we are having a question and answer session. Next month, no group discussion. We will have question and answer session. We'll call that question and answer session Sarthaki because it is dedicated to Sarthak and his questions. Of course, everybody else is free to ask also. But let's do one idea, just one idea. What is the idea today? That let us understand the importance of thinking for ourselves. We don't need to think for anyone else. We need to think for ourselves. Okay, if Buddha chooses to think for himself and walk out, more power to him. If Arjuna thinks for himself and decides not to walk out, more power to him. We are not making general rules on why anybody should do whatever they're doing. But what is a general rule? That every human being, to be a human being, must think it out for himself. Otherwise it's so tough. We have the YouTube channel and people put all sorts of comments on those things. And one man he's been in conversation actually, and he says that all this, whatever we are saying, is all wrong. And if you are not a believer, you are just going to rot in heaven. Now, unfortunately, what he's saying is true. But he has never stopped to understand what does that sentence mean? Who is a believer? What is to believe? What is this hell that we are going to go to if we don't believe? These questions don't occur to us. So then we say, my book says if you are not a believer, you'll go to hell. And somebody else says, my book doesn't say that. If you read all the books carefully, you will find that they're saying exactly the same thing. There's no difference. Just define your terms and you will see that everybody is saying exactly the same thing. But we don't want to think for ourselves. We want to have these beliefs. So that's why Buddha says, do not believe what you have heard. Okay, actually, if you stop and think about it, it's quite a leap of imagination, isn't it? To say that we will leave this planet Earth, then we will go to heaven, we'll go to hell. Well, the astronauts did go up, they didn't see any heavens and hells. So, what is it supposed to mean? Is that what the great master meant? That we will go to this kind of a heaven and hell? And this is how this heaven and this is how this hell will be? What does all that mean? We must remember that most scriptures, most words of wisdom are given out in poetry, and poetry follows its own rules. In fact, if you're interested in that, do read the isn't it? Fourth chapter of How Do You Know What You Know? To understand how is it that in poetry the same rational, the same reasonable ideas are communicated, but with a very beautiful way of doing it. So we have punya, we have pap, we have hell, we have heaven, we have all sorts of things going on. But let's understand what they mean. Do not believe what you have heard. Because believing in it, just because you heard it, how do you even know you got the right meaning out of it? So don't believe in what you have heard. Please understand what you have heard. You don't believe in Einstein, do you? Then why should you believe in Christ or Krishna or Muhammad? Why? Why not understand them just as you understand Einstein? When you struggle to understand Einstein, you may find you're not able to do it. It's too high for you. Then you will take a natural process of studying physics properly and then trying to understand what they say. But you don't believe it. You think about it and work your way to that comprehension. Exactly the same thing we must do here. No different. It is a shastra. It is a science. It is not a matter of, oh, let's believe this, let's believe that. We are not children. It's time to grow up. So Buddha says, do not believe what you have heard. Do not believe in tradition because it is handed down many generations. Is something true because many generations believed in it? No, isn't it? How many times has old knowledge been proved wrong? How many times? Science is the history of old knowledge being proved wrong. Don't believe it because it's old. Do not believe in anything that has been spoken of many times. This is the most frightening of them all. Because remember the famous saying, repeat a lie often and it becomes the truth. Repeat a lie often and it becomes the truth. Think of that statement deeply. How often do you have to hear a statement for you to say, everybody says it, and from that statement make the leap to, it is true? How many times do you need to get a WhatsApp forward? Okay, the first time you got it, you didn't believe it. The second time you got it, you thought, oh, well, I don't know. What happens fourth time, fifth time? Don't you start believing in it? Isn't that frightening? The first time you heard it, you said, no, this could not be true. But a few more times you hear it, and suddenly it does become true. Why? Just repetition. And that's a fact of life. That's what marketing uses to sell you their product. What do you think they're doing? Every time they show you an ad on television, they're going, pumping this message into you. This is the best, this is the best, this is the best, this is the best, the best. Before you know what's happening, you go out and get that thing. They're called reminder ads also. They just take 10 seconds to keep drumming into our heads that this is the best thing, you must get it. And children are most easily influenced with that because their intellect hasn't yet started completely. They're most easily influenced. So the very cruel thing that goes on nowadays is that ads are directed towards children for everything. When an ad is directed towards a child, you must stop and ask yourself, what are they indoctrinating you with? Because the easiest people to indoctrinate are the children. The children are going to believe straight away. So you say, oh, this food is very good for you. The child will believe it. This car is the best. The child will believe it. They're using the children to motivate the purchases of the household. Think about all these things. Think about what's going on. So, do not believe in anything that has been spoken of many times. Do not believe because the written statements come from an old sage. Another important one. Don't believe your teacher because you like your teacher. Don't believe people because you like them. That's not correct. Neither should you disbelieve because you don't like them. Somehow or the other, I don't like that person. So everything that person says is false. No. The truth or falsehood of those statements have got nothing to do with who is saying them. So don't say it's true because so and so said so. How can you doubt him? He is such a great sage. No, we're not doubting him. We're only trying to understand what did he say? What did he mean? Is it possible that he meant this? We have to see. You have to see in context. Like we will be doing now in the Bhagavad Gita about the caste system. It's so, I mean, it's unbelievable what we did to the caste system. We picked out something totally out of context and made a complete mess out of it. And yet, when you read it in its pristine glory, you can't but appreciate what a wonderful system it was. Yet, you take it out of context, and what you have are cruel human beings. What you have are downtrodden human beings. Is that what it's meant for? You know, some people say, I believe in this religion, or I believe in that religion, or I believe in Dvaita, or I believe in Advaita, or I don't believe in God. Does it really even matter? Because at the end of the day, what really matters is the person that we are or the person that we are becoming, not whatever our professed beliefs are, isn't it? If my belief is making me do all sorts of strange and obnoxious things, what use is that belief? But if my belief is making me be pure and noble, then good for me, because it's making me pure and noble. So don't believe written statements come from an old sage. So is he trying to tell us don't believe in the sages? Of course not. We will have faith in them. We will have a belief in them, but we should not believe that statement because how do you know what he meant and what you understood out of it? Therefore, struggle to understand the statement. Do not believe in conjecture. This is famous for in Buddha. He says, don't believe in. The people asked him about God, about birth, life after death, about heaven and hell, and he always said the same thing. Don't talk about conjectures. Put your feet on the ground and let's work from here. And he gives the story, which I'm sure you all have heard, which is if a man is shot with an arrow, would that man start trying to find out who shot the arrow? What is the arrow made out of? How deep has it gone? Then that person will be dead. When you see the arrow, there's only one thing to be done: remove it. Nothing else. You don't have to go into all sorts of conjecture. Did he mean to kill me? Was he trying to kill somebody else? Don't go into conjecture. There is an arrow. What do I do with it? I have to remove it from my body and I have to close my body to the best of my ability. That is it. How much conjecture, how much supposition? Always let us promise ourselves, I will start with a fact, not with a supposition, not with a conjecture, not with an unknown, always with a fact. Do not believe in conjecture. Very, very famous aspect of Buddha's teachings, which is don't talk about all these unknown things. Let's get down to what we need to do right now. Right now, what you need to do is the arrow has hit you, get the arrow out. That's what you need to do. Who shot the arrow? Why did he shoot the arrow? Was he intending to kill me? Was he a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian? How does it matter? Do not believe in conjecture. Do not believe in authority or teachers or leaders, elders. How much poor thing is explaining to us, right? It's the same point. Do not believe in these elders, in these teachers, in these celebrities. No, no, no. Do not believe, do not believe, do not believe, do not believe. If you don't have to believe, what are you supposed to do? Not believe, reject them? What are you supposed to do?
Analyze and
Think
reflect
about
on
it.
what they say.
Sorry?
Think and reflect.
Try and understand it. Understand what they're trying to say, Baba.
Reason it out.
What?
Reason it out.
Reason it out, think about it, understand it, try and figure out what they're trying to say. Is there any use of chanting the mantra E is equal to MC square? Let it chant क्यों कर रहे हो भैया समझ तो लो ये क्या है. Are you going to pass your exam by chanting E is equal to MC square? E is equal to MC square. Yes, Seema. Reason, logic, apply, understand, understand, understand. Don't believe. What is he saying? Therefore, but after careful observation, first step in knowledge is observe carefully. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you touch. Be alert, be aware, observe. What is happening in the world? Observe. Read to improve that observation. What are the facts today? If you look around, what are the facts you see? You see that most people think that what they should do with their life is earn money. You can see that. Some people say you should earn money and fame. You see this is happening. What else do you see in this world? You see that there is a lot of strain and stress within a person. You also see that there is a lot of enmity and trouble between people, between nations, between communities. We see that some people seem to have their act together. We see some relationships fail. We see some relationships are working. Very few. If you were to count amongst the people you knew, how many marriages are working versus how many marriages aren't? Look for yourself. Don't let anyone else try to influence that. Look for yourself. How many people are healthy? How many people are unhealthy? How many people are genuinely satisfied and content with their lives? How many claim to be contented? How many appear discontented? How much of what people tell you can you take at face value? Observe. Just observe. Simple things. What do you see the share market doing? I don't know if you remember way back when the share market was 1,000 something. Somebody at that time told me, one of the students is so sweet. He told me that you must put in the mutual funds. And he was such a dear because I was dragging my feet over it. He would come every month, make me give him my checkbook, write out a check, take my signature on it, and go and deposit it or whatever it is. He would go demand my checkbook at the beginning of the month. Give me your checkbook. Okay, Baba, here's my checkbook. What is it? He would only fill it up. He would only do everything. All I had to do was sign. And then he would do whatever, take it away and do whatever he was doing with it. And he was putting something in the mutual funds. Okay, and the index was, I think, less than 1,000 or something, or 1,000, something like that. And then as time went on, something happened and I think I didn't have funds or whatever, so it stopped for a bit. And then he told me, when are you starting? When are you starting? And then, okay, so the index went to 2,000. And I told him, what are you talking? We missed the boat. That time we couldn't do it. Now I missed the boat. He said, no, you still give it to me. Oh, forget, yeah, don't. It's gone too high. The index was that time 2000. Today, I believe it is somewhere around what, 40, 50, something like that.
50.
How much?
50,000. 51.
50,000. Observe what happened. At 2000, you thought you had missed the boat. That same boat has reached 50,000. But did it reach 50,000 in one upward swing? No, it didn't. What happened to it? It went down, it went up, it went down, it went up. How many people during the COVID, that whole 2020, kept their SIPs on? How many people did that? If you had been observing from the beginning and knowing how it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, you would have known that it's a good idea to keep the SIP on, isn't it? So if you have been observing carefully, if you have learned from what you have seen in the past, you will do very well. So observe. Don't jump to conclusions. Just observe. As you observe, see what you can see, any patterns that you think that can emerge. Be in no rush to see those patterns. Don't do any jumping. Watch, watch, watch. When you see somebody, you like that person, you're thinking of marrying that person, spend a certain amount of time watching, hearing. So anxious to tell the other person what you are. You've never watched what the other person is. Yet so many assumptions. So many assumptions were made, isn't it? I know them not only from personal experience, but also from hearing people tell me. You assume there's a certain degree of benefit of wisdom when you do the work I do, because you get to hear some stories which teach you a lot. It's sad for the person involved, but it's good for the rest who can learn from those things. So many assumptions. You're getting married to somebody. You're linking your lot with somebody. You are basically tying yourself up to somebody for the rest of your life, and you don't feel you need to be cautious? When everything that person does after the wedding is going to influence your life in some way or the other? Most people, when they are getting married, are not watchful and cautious, but are
Lovelorn. Impulsive.
excited and happy. Please, you all remember, right? What happened? शादी हो रही है, कितना अच्छा था वो, कितना अच्छा लड़का है, कितनी अच्छी लड़की है, ओ घर देखो कितना अच्छा घर है, और अच्छे अच्छे लोग हैं. Are you marrying those अच्छे अच्छे लोग? You marrying the person? Who are you marrying? Please be clear about this. Who are you linking your lot with? You may be linking your lot with the family, in which case, please know that. Watch, watch, watch. Observe, observe, observe. One easy thing to observe is this person even asking me what I want, or is assuming what I want? Or is assuming basically that whatever I want is whatever he or she wants? Very important thing to check when you're marrying somebody. Is the person even has the faintest degree of understanding that I may want something different? Faintest degree of understanding. And that's the assumption that both parties want the same thing. No, they may not. The belief also that both parties have the same understanding of what marriage is about? It's a killer, that one. When the two parties have two different views of what marriage is about. It's painful. So better know in the beginning. Observe. Analyze. This is true for everything. Don't think only of this. You're starting a business. Observe. Think. Analyze. Analyze means, and the process of analysis is break it up into smaller parts and look at it properly. Analyze. Apply reason to it. This sounds reasonable. This does not sound reasonable. Think about it. Think about, is this going to benefit everybody? Because we are all so inherently linked with each other. It's almost like we're all married to each other. All of us on this planet are sort of married to each other. In the sense that any one idiot on this planet can do any one idiotic thing and we will all be suffering for it. Or one great person can do one wonderful thing and we will do all benefit from it. So we are in some sense also inherently linked. That if something is very good for me, it will be good for you. And if anything is very good for you, it will probably be very good for me too. So use that as a good yardstick to figure out whether you're on the right track. Is it benefiting everybody? Is this good for everybody? If your answer to that question is yes, then you're probably on the right track towards growth, towards prosperity, towards everything. Imagine somebody who's a builder and he's making a building and he thinks, is this good for everybody? And his answer is yes. What do you think will happen to that builder? Will he not grow? Will he not prosper? Will everybody not benefit from that? And like that, everything. You're running a store. And you can ask that question, is this good for everybody? And if your answer is yes, probably be good for you too. Suppose you're doing something which is inherently very good for yourself, such as following your own swadharma. Then is this not going to be good for everybody else too? Because whatever you do in your swadharma will be something so well executed that people are bound to benefit of your doing that thing, whatever it is well. A carpenter is a carpenter and he's a good carpenter. Don't we all benefit? But if he's a bad carpenter, he wanted to be whatever. He wanted to be an artist, but he became a carpenter. Then he'll do a bad job. And so when we get him to the house, it'll be a pain. So it's all inherently linked. So observe, analyze, think also, is it beneficial to everybody? And if your answer is yes, then accept that, live by that. Don't just talk about it, as we're going to read in the Gita, that beautiful verse that says, worshipping him with your actions. Not with intention, oh, I love God, I love God, I love God, but worshipping him with your actions. Your actions speak for themselves. I don't have to say anything. Rajesh Shastri. We should also be cautious of analysis paralysis, else it's an endless loop without knowing how to come out of it. While questioning is important, it should be time-bound, including learning on experiences, learnings of others. Yes, of course. Whenever, Rajesh, we say do something, we always assume that it is done in the right way. Suppose I tell you eat spinach. Not I tell you, you won't get that from me. Suppose the doctor tells you eat spinach, he assumes that the spinach you eat will be healthy spinach, not, like rotten spinach or something. So if you do analysis paralysis, then it's like rotten thinking, not that type of thing. But a thoughtful gaze at things, a thoughtful thinking about things And knowing that thinking is meant to be, why do we think? Why do we gain knowledge? What is the purpose of it? The purpose of it is always action. The purpose of knowledge is always action. And if we are clear with that one concept, then we avoid all the pitfalls in this process. That is why, we are making, I don't know if you're all familiar, we are making a new institution. We're trying to build it up. The papers are now being, it's all with the lawyers and going through all the legal process. We're setting up a new trust. And the motto of this new institution will be, so far, of course, subject to change. If any of you all come up with a better one, let me know. It is in English, it translates as knowledge which directs action. This is in Sanskrit, I'm telling you in English. Knowledge which directs action for the sake of realization. That's what we want to do, right? We want to gain this knowledge. Why? Because it will direct our action. We are not doing all this. We are not becoming jholawalas. That's not what we are here to do. We're going to take the knowledge, use it to direct our action, and use this process for self-realization, for growth, for maturity, whichever word inspires you. But to grow up as human beings. That's what the purpose of that institution will be. Hopefully, we have to stick to our guns as we do it. So, one thing has to be clear, that knowledge is always meant to direct action. This has to be very clear to us from the beginning. Why are you in a Vedanta class? So that eventually you can choose your action properly. It's all about action, somehow. Though it's all about knowledge, somehow. And it's all about realization, somehow. Meaning that you take the knowledge, so it will direct the action. And that action, which you perform, should take you to self-realization, but towards your growth. Wouldn't it be nice if we could actually set up an educational institution that could make us all live that? So we'll be at it. We are on the job. Anybody who wants to be on the job with us, of course, please come along. So if it agrees with our reasoning, which looks into the benefit of all, then accept it and live by it. That's important. Live by it. Not verbal service. Vedanta is so good. Vedanta is so good means what? Vedanta is good or bad? Humko na lena na dena. We have lena and dena with only one thing in this whole wide world. And that one thing is?
Right action.
Very good, Bharat. Now you see why Bharat is what he is. He's a Bharat Muni. We have lena and dena with only one thing. Right action. And no other job in this world but to choose and do the right action. To do and choose the right action, we require
Goal, ideal.
Knowledge, intellect.
knowledge, intellect, knowledge. Basically knowledge. The knowledge will develop an intellect. The knowledge will tell us what the goal should be. All that will come with knowledge. But to know right action, you have to have knowledge. Knowledge will also tell you what is the purpose of the right action. Why are you doing this right action? We're doing right action for one reason and one reason alone, and that is to realize the self. That should be very clear. Then what will happen to me? How will I get money? How will I eat my food? Don't worry, when you do the right action, all these are the byproducts. Everything will come to you. You'll be peaceful. You'll be progressive. You'll be happy. You'll be a high achiever. If you're not a high achiever, Know one thing for clear, for sure. If you're not a high achiever, know one thing for sure. What is that one thing you have to know for sure?
That we are not taking right action.
Very good, Manoj, that we are not doing right action. Otherwise, why would you not be a high achiever? It'd be crazy. Why would you not be? You would be. Every one of us will be. Do the right action. Do the right action means kya kare? Everybody says, "Acha, achiever. Yeah, I want to be an achiever. Tell me what to do." Tell you what to do.
Morning studies. Morning studies.
Sarthak, very good. Do your morning study. I think you guys are getting very good. We can close the class. If everybody knows everything, then now we can even close down. That will be very good. I will get chutti. Okay. So is Buddha clear to everybody? If Buddha is clear to everybody, is this, can you hear me? Is it
Yes,
clear?
we can hear now.
Now we can.
hear.
We
Oh,
were
okay.
freezed earlier.
All right. Okay, so let's see what happened now. Okay, so wherever we have, so remember the flow of thought. We deep dived into one particular aspect. So let's just do the flow of thought quickly again. The first thing he told us is gaining knowledge is not about just gaining lots of information. It starts with the first thing, which is recognition of ignorance. First thing. So then what do? We take in some knowledge. And what do we do with this knowledge? We must not believe it, but we must reflect upon it. We must think about it. Okay, so that was Buddha. Okay, but now is that it? No. There's more stuff. So let's see the next very important thing about knowledge, which this is all a very important portion because we're transacting directly with knowledge, right? So we must know how this is done. The next very important thing about knowledge is what we are going to read now, that knowledge must be taken in regulated doses. We didn't do that chapter, that para, did we? Okay, so who will read it?
I'll read it, Jacqueline.
Please.
People need to go beyond the husk and get the grain. Approach to truth.
No. No, write down. So much spiritual knowledge. Go down. Omkar, is that you? Go down.
I see that. People.
No. This we did after careful. You have to go to the next one. Yes, so much spiritual knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
So must spiritual knowledge be taken in regulated doses. If not, the knowledge passes through you without producing the desired effect. You could be well versed in scriptural literature and not spiritual. All the sacred information that you gather may not bring about a transformation in your personality. Spiritual books read or discourses heard could make you a scholar at best. You may even author spiritual books, give religious discourses, and yet remain far from being spiritual. Spiritual growth is measured by the stability of mind. An unstable mind perturbed in the fluctuation of external world lacks the elements of spirituality. Such a mind is like milk, watery and easily flowing, whereas a stable mind resembles yogurt, thick and does not run. The process of preparing yogurt out of milk is strikingly similar to making a person spiritual.
Continue, Manoj.
It has been an age-old tradition among the Indians to make yogurt in their homes. To prepare yogurt, milk is first heated to boiling point and left to cool to lukewarm temperature. A small portion of yogurt left over for the purpose is then mixed with the milk. The mixture is left overnight. By next morning, the thin running milk is converted into thick formed yogurt. In a similar process, a seeker initially goes through the challenges of life. Later, he chooses a relatively peaceful place for spiritual practice, not the heat of the marketplace, nor the cool heights of the mountain. That is indicated by bringing the milk to lukewarm temperatures. The little yogurt of yesterday represents a measured daily dose of Vedanta knowledge left behind by the sages. This is added and stirred. The spiritual truths taken in have to be reflected upon. The overnight period that the yogurt takes or set indicates that the seeker needs a length of time for the knowledge to seep in. Adopting this procedure, the individual merges with the sound, stable mind. The stability of mind marks his spiritual evolution.
So will you summarize?
Yeah, summary is like having information in two sentences. Having information is not enough. We have to implement the knowledge we have consistently, so that knowledge becomes part of our daily actions.
What is the main idea? Can you tell me in 2 words what is the main idea of this paragraph?
Main idea is how to move from your current stage to the next higher stage, which is symbolized by curd, like how to stabilize your mind basically.
Okay, so what will give us the stability of the mind? What do we need to do? What is the process that he has told us?
We need to reflect on the knowledge we have consistently, and then
he has already told us that. What is the new point that he has said this time? Just 2 words. Pick out any 2 words from these 2 paragraphs that you have read.
May I, Janki ji?
regulated doses.
Spiritual evolution.
Regulated doses. Very, very important. Now this fellow has gone off. Regulated doses. Okay, so what has he said so far? First, we must be aware of ignorance. Secondly, what have we got to do? We have to take in some information, but not believe the information to be the whole story. We have to reflect, not believe, but reflect. Okay? I mean, not believe. What else has he told us now? What has he added now? He said, do this little bit. Little bit. थोड़ा सा दही बनाने के लिए कितना हम लोग उसमें what is that thing called?
Jamavan.
What?
Jamavan.
Jamavan. कितना?
In Gujarati we call Melwan.
मेलवन.
Melo.
मेलवन. कितना मेलवन डालते हैं? What is it in Hindi?
Jaman.
Jaman.
Jamna. Dahi ko jamana.
But what is that? How little you put? Right? You don't put so much to make dahi.
Jaman.
Jaman. How much jaman are you putting? A bit. That is how much knowledge you have to put into your life. Imagine, what are you asked to do? Morning study, half an hour, 45 minutes in 24 hours. Isn't it? Just a little bit. What are you doing? You don't have to do a lot. You don't have to even listen to a lot. Do I have to attend? You're taking 4 classes every week. Do I have to attend all 4? No. Take only as much as you can reflect on. Because there's no point just hearing and hearing and hearing. The Upanishad says, na bahuna shrutena, by lots of listening. No. Na ayam atma bahun pravachanena labhyaha, na bahuna shrutena. Ayam atma, this atma. Na pravachanena labhyaha. It is not got by pravachan, either listening or giving. Na bahuna shrutena, by lots of exposure to the shruti or by lots of hearing. No, not that way, but by very little. Suppose in your whole life you take only one book, you take Vedanta Treatise and say, I will only study this book. You will attain realization. Whole life, only one book. No, there is nothing more. If you know Vedanta Treatise, you know everything there is in Vedanta. Regulated doses. a little bit, take a little bit, and allow that to settle with the personality, to be with the personality, and let the personality solidify. Solidify means stabilize. A stable personality is a personality that does not get affected every time something or the other happens. So many things will happen. There will be sukh, there will be dukh, there will be man, there will be apman, there will be share market going up and share market going down. There will be times when people will agree with you, there will be times when people will disagree with you. There will be times of COVID, there will be times of non-COVID. So many things will happen. Who is a stable person? Who is a mature person? Who maintains equanimity in and through all of this? So how did that running mind, that mind which is running everywhere at all times, jumping from here to there, how did it become stable? You added knowledge in regulated doses. You don't go crazy about it. Too much, too much, too much. You take so much knowledge that you go mad with it. Or take so little that it has no effect on you. But you regulated your intake of knowledge in a disciplined daily fashion. A little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Taken a little knowledge, think about it. Taken a little knowledge, think about it. And go about in a systematic and disciplined manner. And he compares that whole thing to the process of making dahi. So the milk represents our mind. The white milk, because it should be relatively pure, the mind. If it's extremely selfish, no knowledge is going to go in. So the milk should be relatively pure. Not very pure, but thoda to purity honi chahiye. Now this cannot be very hot, this milk. Very hot means too exposed to the world. Too exposed to the world means I can't imagine your head so exposed. The experiences are beyond what you can handle. It cannot be too little exposed. Means cold milk. Cold milk se nahi dahi banega. Garam milk se nahi. You can't be in the midst of it. You can't catch a fellow who's in the middle of his IIT exams and say, "Chalo, aaja Vedanta study karo." He can't. His mind is too heated up. You can't catch hold of Virat Kohli in the middle of his cricket tour and say, "Acha, chalo, abhi Vedanta study karne ke liye shuru karo abhi." I can't do that. I'm not there. Mind is too heated up. But you can't go to a very cold man because he has never been through any experience. He can't understand how this is correct. You know, so many people say that I wish I knew this much earlier. But do you realize that even if you had known this much earlier, this is not what you would have understood from it? You may not have even understood it, even if you had known it then. But you went through that experience and then you said, "Oh my God, this is so true." So don't regret what you didn't do in the past. Now let's move forward from here. So mind is not too hot in the world. It's not too no leaky jag mein kya chal raha hai. You can't learn anything out of that. It's the right temperature, which assumably we all are because we're able to understand these ideas. So get the right temperature. Now that right temperature, you add little of that jamun. And let it be for some time. Don't say kya hua, have I improved, have I grown? Nothing. Just let it be. And slowly, that little bit of knowledge will stabilize the whole mind. It will be so thick that you turn the pot upside down also, that the dahi will not fall. So thick. Like Kerustam dahi. You put a chamchi in it and you turn it upside down, it will not fall. Little knowledge, sometime, and this effect will come about. Simply not affected by the things that are going on. Just not affected. That doesn't mean you're insensitive. It doesn't mean you couldn't care. It just means that you're not affected by it. Your equanimity is not gone. You can still think straight, no matter what's going on around you. If you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, this is how you reach what Rudyard Kipling is talking about. If you can keep your head while all others around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you haven't read the poem, please go and read it. So add a little knowledge, give it some time, and the mind will stabilize. Don't worry about it. That's the right way of going about your spiritual life. Who will read the next paragraph?
May I, Janki ji?
Please do.
Religious practitioners have not been following the prescribed procedures for spiritual development. They merely run through volumes of scriptural literature, and they do so alongside with their material and sensual indulgence. Give no time nor put in any effort to think, contemplate upon the matter therein. Consequently, they do not assimilate, absorb the knowledge taken in. All the accumulated knowledge becomes a burden rather than the blessing. No more useful to them than gold on a mule's back is to the mule. That you're learning, but you're not grasping anything.
Why are you not grasping anything?
Because you're not reflecting, not contemplating on it.
And what else are you doing?
Practicing.
What else are you doing? You're not doing that. So what are you doing? You're not reflecting, but instead of reflecting, what are you doing?
Going through various volumes of the literatures, not sticking to one.
Indulging in
material.
Yes, indulging. Now think about what that means. Okay, people say, "Oh, Vedanta, I knew it. Vedanta wants you to not enjoy life." No, of course not. Vedanta wants you to enjoy life. Life is meant for enjoying. Vedanta says the primary duty of a human being is to be happy. If you're not happy, you've not done the primary duty of being a human being. Vedanta wants us to be happy. All the knowledge is meant to make us happy. Okay, then what is this thing now about indulgence? This is a common Vedantic concept which you may have heard of in the Sanskrit terminology, which is Viveka and Vairagya. You may have heard of this. Knowledge has to be accompanied with Vairagya. However, none of these words are understood in any language. So let's understand what it means. You took in knowledge. Let's take it very practically to our class. You attended class, you heard something. On a Saturday morning, you heard something. Now, what is your obligation with the knowledge that you have heard? You have to think about it, right? That's your obligation. What do you have to do? You take the knowledge, you think about it. Now, why won't you think about it? This knowledge is meant for our, it should be thought-provoking, right? If it's not thought-provoking, what is it doing? So why am I not going to think about it? Think. So I have to get up tomorrow morning and I have to study. I couldn't get up in the morning and study. Why couldn't I get up in the morning and study?
Because I had other things going on in my mind, which take priority.
What is that other thing?
Because
we are
tonight's
indulging.
activity might be.
Material indulgence.
No, we have not paid attention to what has been told to us. So it's somewhere there in the mind, perhaps, but we have not really concentrated. So therefore, other things
Let us say you even took notes. You've written it all down. Let us say you did the class very well. But you didn't do the morning reflection. Why didn't you do the morning reflection?
I watched a
effort.
Busy
movie
going after
last
material
night.
things.
I didn't get,
Yeah, very
I
good.
couldn't
You're
get
watching
a.
a movie last night.
That need was not felt, perhaps. That we need to
No,
reflect on what we have
no.
gained.
So indulging in other things. Indulging
Yeah,
in
you
other
watched a movie
Free.
at night. You went out for dinner, Saturday night fever. Ha, 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 ha. You know, and that's what is happening, isn't it? Otherwise, why would you not study in the morning? At night, uh,
At night, you have to tell your mind, I have to make that effort in the morning to reflect. If I don't
no,
school
but if you
myself,
went, no, if you went to sleep by 10 o'clock, you would have gotten up by 5 o'clock. But if you go to sleep at 2 o'clock, how will you get up? Not possible. And why are you sleeping at 2 o'clock? Because it's night
Saturday
night
night.
fever. So how? So that's what he's saying. You have to regulate. You cannot do your enjoyments at the cost of your reflection. Please go out and enjoy everything you want to do, but not at the cost of your reflection. Right? You can do so many things. You're free to do so many things. Why should you do those things which are going to interfere with your reflection process? Sarthak, there are 24 hours I could regulate indulgence and morning studies. Is that right? Yes, Sarthak, that's correct. You can regulate, but we don't, when you regulate it, you don't use the word indulgence. Indulgence means it's unregulated. So when you regulate it, you discipline it, you can enjoy every aspect of life. And you should. Why should you not? Is there anything wrong in seeing a movie? Is there anything wrong in being with friends? Is there anything wrong in going out for a meal? Nothing. Enjoy it, please. Dress up nicely, do whatever in the world that gives you enjoyment. Why not? But none of these enjoyments at the cost of your being a human being, which means at the cost of your developing your intellect, which means at the cost of your morning reflection time. Not at that cost. Otherwise, no problem whatsoever. Okay, so what did we learn in this paragraph? We learned that we need to not go through volumes of literature, but we need to reflect upon it instead of using that time for indulgence. Okay, is that clear? So what did this class, what did we learn? Number one point, don't believe in hundreds and hundreds of things, in some conjecture, in some tradition, in some old elderly people, in some sages, in what is written, in what is said, in what many people have said. Don't believe all this. But what do? You think it through. You observe what is going on. You think it through. You apply your reason to it. And if it works for everybody, if it sounds that will be good for everybody, then accept that idea and live by that idea. Do those things. Okay? Then we learned that how do you take that knowledge? You take the knowledge in regulated doses. You take small amounts of knowledge, just as much as you can handle reflection. Now, to be able to reflect, you cannot take this volume of literature. That also you'll have to cut out. You can't say, okay, I'm reading this book, I'm reading that book, I'm reading that book. No, no, please curtail it down to one thing, one teacher, one system, one something. Curtail it. And then what? Then remember, you'll have to cut out some things to put this thing in. Remember that little sacrifice will have to be done too. Okay, so that was this class. Hari Om.
Thank
Hari
you,
Om.